Hi, everyone. I just want to welcome you both in Fellowship Hall and on Zoom to this session of Journey, where I am just thrilled that we will be hearing from real life stories, people at South Park Church, about mentoring. Last week, Vicki and Jesse shared with us some biblical principles of mentoring, but this is the week where we get to see how it works in action. And I'm hoping that as you listen to these stories, you start thinking that maybe this is something that you might consider doing yourself. As you'll see from these stories, there's all different ways. It takes many different forms. So we'll start with Roberta, who'll be sharing how she and Kathy Polanski have mentored somebody. And then we'll be going with John Shimka and Noah Riken. And then Karen Anderson will be talking. Chrissy was supposed to be talking with her, but she can't be here because of a sudden death of a family friend. And then finally, Pat, Moy, and Jana Proctor will be wrapping up. So thank you all for speaking. Take it away, Roberta.
Okay. As Dorothy said, Kathy Polanski was supposed to be part of this conversation this morning because she certainly shared this experience with me. However, she's not able to be here. And so I will try to include some of her thoughts and comments that she made through the years as we went along with this. When Dorothy first asked me to share my mentoring story, my initial reaction was, what mentoring? I've never mentored anybody. And if I'd been asked to mentor someone, my response most definitely would have been, no, thank you, not me, no way, I'm not qualified to do that. What Dorothy was referring to was a small group Bible study that Kathy and I had been asked to join. Neither of us saw this as a mentoring opportunity. The Bible study was being started by a lady that we both knew from community Bible study. The lady was a new believer and a very fascinating person, intelligent, inquisitive, and eager to learn about her new faith. She was one who always asked many questions during our CBS small group or core time. And they were always many faceted questions, not ones that could be answered with a simple explanation. So participate in a Bible study, sure, I could do that. But mentoring, it never crossed my mind. We started in the book of Acts, since that was the recommendation we were given from the CBS teaching director. We purchased a workbook that was written by Community Bible Study and set out to learn about the early church and Paul's missionary journeys. The study book was not as detailed as the one that we used during the year by CBS, but it was comprehensive and well written. And since we only intended to meet in the summer, we didn't get too far in the allotted 10 to 12 weeks. As a matter of fact, it took us 3 years to complete that study. And we were teased many times about how long it took us to get through Acts. Next, we agreed to study Genesis, the book of beginnings. It contains many stories that Kathy and I had known since childhood, but that were totally new to our friend. Cain and Abel, Jacob and Esau, Isaac, Abraham, Joseph, to name just a few, were unfamiliar to her. But thanks to a very well-written study guide, Kathy and I were challenged as we studied these very familiar Bible stories. The study guide drew many connections between the Bible characters and their actions with other parts of the Bible, connections that we had not thought about. And of course, there were many questions from our friends that caused us to think long and hard, maybe even do some research. Questions like, why wasn't Cain's offering acceptable to God when Abel's was? Why did God clothe Adam and Eve in animal skins after they disobeyed him? Why not leaves or some other vegetation? What's the significance of animal skins? And as we studied Esther and Ruth this past summer, she wanted to know why God's name is never mentioned in the book of Esther. As we got to know each other on a much deeper level, we were able to share our lives with our friend. And perhaps that is what mentoring really is about. When Kathy's husband, Steve, died, our friend saw a godly woman handle one of life's most difficult circumstances with grace, absolute trust in God, and a sense of God-given peace. When our friend faced a devastating crisis in her own family, she was able to talk to us about it. Kathy and I were at a point in our relationship with her that allowed us to make suggestions to her and help her mend her badly shaken faith. When she wanted to know how to learn how to memorize scripture, we were able to point her to several well-known programs, such as the one the Navigators offer. Finally, I would say that Kathy and I believe that much of what our friend gained as a result of mentorship was caught rather than taught. It flowed naturally from what we believed and lived. And maybe in some ways, she mentored us also. The end.
Roberta, that was great. Kathy, do you want to add anything?
You can't add anything to something that's already perfect.
It's just the way that you two have mentored this woman. I don't know her, but through your knowledge of the Bible and also through the curriculum that was provided by Community Bible Studies. So you don't necessarily have to have all the answers yourself. There are materials that are available if you want to do a Bible study with someone. All you have to have is what Roberta and Kathy had, and that was the willingness to get started. So next, I'm hoping on faith that there's somebody in Fellowship Hall. John, Noah, are you there? Because all we can see on Zoom is the ceiling.
We're coming.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see us now?
Yeah, come a little closer. Your
So
head's small. Oh, that looks good. Yeah, can you see you guys?
I see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, you're looking
Can
good.
you rotate it so that we're not just facing the camera and not.
Sure.
There you go.
And turn the car, you're right, Noah.
No, I was talking turn it.
Oh, turn it this way.
Yeah,
I got it
and
now.
it's not like we're staring directly away from everyone in the room. Does this thing actually work?
Looking good, Noah.
Oh, a microphone.
Does it work?
Yeah, it works.
So I prepared for this and no, it didn't.
I'm not the one who chose to put this during AP testing weeks.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Good luck.
So I'm going to answer my first question, and I'll give Noah to answer his first. What were some of your reservations about doing this? There was actually none. I've been doing this for 17 years now with different kids. So the only thing I had was time. Like, am I going to have the time? And I've missed a few times, and it's because of work and all the other things I had, but it's been amazing, and I enjoy doing it.
I got it up, and of course I immediately forget it after I read it. So for me, like, if I'm being honest, what led me to ask him to mentor. Oh wait, hold it up. I'm not used to using actual mics because I do class presentations, not big presentations. Anyways, so what led me to ask someone to mentor me was actually, well, Nick, who just came in now, was giving a talk about mentoring. He has done that periodically. And it's like, I have plenty of people in my life who I could ask, but I specifically asked Shivka because so he's my small group leader in Summit. And at the time, I think it might have been Ascent back then. And so I already knew him through that. And I felt connected with him. And it's like, I felt like I already knew him. I felt like he was a good guy who I felt like I could interact with well, but I also felt like there was a lot I could learn from him. And so that's why I specifically chose John, as I just felt like we are a group who would connect well. And what's it called? There's also some weirdness to how we met, because I actually went here when I was like, did this preschool here, and then we went to a different church, and then we came back and he recognized me, even though I was a fifth grader and had no clue who he was. But that's not relevant to this. I just find it funny.
The next question is, have I been mentored by someone? It's an interesting story. DJ, who I know him by DJ, but it's Mark, DJ, I can't remember how to say it.
Desjardins.
Desjardins was my mentor during high school. I haven't seen him since high school, and then when I came here 17 years ago, he was one of the very first persons I've seen. He was an important part in my life and my sister's life. And then there was one other family. This is an interesting story. My friend lived down the block from me, and his family all of a sudden left and moved. And I was very mad at the new neighbors that moved into the house. So I went over there to sort of welcome, but sort of be mad at him. And they go, "Oh, we have a son." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so excited." Well, they bring me into the house, and the son was a 6-month-old baby boy. As I'm 12 years old now, thinking, what am I going to do with this? But they were so welcoming that I ended up babysitting Timmy, was his name, and then their other son, Scotty. And they mentored me through my life and with Christ and with school and everything. And to this date now, where their kids are in their 40s, I see them once a year. They live in Jacksonville, Florida, and we are very good friends. So having a mentor in your life is very important.
So for what the benefits are for mentoring, I feel like it's a very difficult question because I feel like it's different for every person. Like for me personally, I'm in a stage of my life where like I'm kind of figuring my place in the world. And so my thoughts on things are very, very malleable and very active. And I would say probably my biggest benefit of meeting with him, because he just kind of helps me stay grounded. And when I'm trying to work through difficult thought processes or things, he helps me try and have a more Christian perspective or kind of give me a good basis. And like, I have a great relationship with my parents, and that's great, but they also are my parents. And so there are things that they can't always help me with. Or they can, but I don't always want them to. And so he's another great external grounding source for me, of just someone who I can feel comfortable talking with and going through things with. And he just is able to keep me on the right track. And so I would say that's the biggest benefit I've found from him mentoring me.
The next question is, what things have surprised you about being a mentor? Well, I'm going to talk about Noah. The thing that surprised me about Noah, he's probably one of the most advanced kids I know. He is concerned about everybody. So we spend a lot of time, because we are in summit together. So we really on Monday bring that together and discuss about how we can do and help some other people in our group. That we have a couple of people in our group that are struggling with the faith and struggling with school and struggling with just life. So we have talked a lot, I think in the last month, about how we can, as Christian leaders in the church, help other people. So that's something that has been really cool that we've been working on with him. He's just a different, I've had some that really needed help. He doesn't need help. He just needs a little guidance, a little push to be more out there and be more, he likes to, how do I say, to stay home and play games. So I'm trying to push him to come out and do other things. He loved the COVID virus because he got to stay home.
I did not love it. It had some nice benefits.
But it's been neat because he's been helping me by talking about what the younger generation needs today and what the downfalls that they have in their life. And it's helping me with working with some other kids too. So he's been a big help.
So how this has changed my life, I feel like I kind of already touched on this a little, but it's just having a relationship like this, as John was, or Shimka, I never know what to, as John was talking about, like he helped. We both have very different perspective on things, and he's helped me to understand some perspectives. And like, I personally, as I said before, I'm trying to be more like open in my thought process, and he helps me to see things that in a way that I wasn't always thinking about, or helps me, maybe I understood it, but I didn't agree with it, and helps me to better understand it. And I guess, what's it called? I don't really, yeah, I'm not thinking right now. This is fun.
It's okay.
So overall, yeah, I really feel like I kind of already touched on how it's changed my life with just having that grounding though.
So the next one, what are the benefits of being a mentor? It's kind of cool because I've had kids that I mentored that now have kids, and I get to still see them and I get to grow up with them. I mean, I've known him since he was in diapers. And most of the group I have right now, I've been following up since they've been 4-year-old. So I've had these boys since 4-year-old. Some of them come in the middle, but I've been with them consistently. So I feel that I don't call them like an adult. People make fun of me, but I call them my friends. Why would you have a friend that's 16, 17 years old? And I say, why not? They are human just like me. They're great kids. They have downfalls like me, and we can work together. And it's just being a mentor is been just so rewarding because I don't have all old friends. I have young friends too.
So just talking about like how, like I need to read the question again because I cannot keep things in my mind for more than 30 seconds, I swear. So I would say probably the biggest way that Shimka has helped guide me or has encouraged me is I can't give like a tangible event, like, oh, there was this time he guided me, but just there are events in life or there's periods in life where I'm just struggling with things. Like I have a lot of school stuff, I have weirdness with friends. And so it's nice to just, I can touch base with him. And sometimes like he pretty much always has advice, but sometimes it's more so just being able to let it out there. Like, this is what's going on. It sucks. And just him being able to help me work through it. What is the most Christian way I can respond to that and just help me process things. Like I'm a very external processor. And so sometimes it's just getting the thoughts out there and then I can work through them. And sometimes it's him helping me work through them in a better way. And yeah.
So the next question, how has this changed my life? Well, there's always kids at my house. Last night I had 4 boys over and we watched, I don't know what we watched. We watched one of the Marvel movies and had pizza. And this is something I do pretty much every other week. I invite this group over to watch, because I told them I never saw a Marvel movie and I didn't realize how many there were. So we are now on probably our 16th movie. We actually watched one that was 4 hours long.
No, that was not a Marvel one.
That was a
Snyder Cut, Justice
Snyder,
League.
but I stayed awake for the whole thing. But just my house has always been open to everybody. So how it changed in my life is to be. I had someone say to me this week, "How come people like coming to your house?" And I say, "Because I don't care what happens in it. If they break something, I don't care." What changed me is being more open and. My house is not my house; it's God's house. So it is not my house. So everybody is welcome. So some people here know they've had their kids at my house. They've spent time. We've played many of games and we've talked about God a lot. And we've we're starting a week from Friday, a Bible study at our house where, since they're seniors, they're going to be teaching, not us. So we're going to mentor them by teaching them how to teach to other people.
So I've worked through all of my questions on the list. So
I just have one more simple one.
Okay. All right.
We try to, so how often do we meet? We try to meet every Monday. I think one of my biggest downfalls is that I work a lot. I own my own business. So like last Monday I worked till 7:30 at night. So I missed it, but I probably miss one a month. I'd like to have more time for that. Or I think the summer would be better until he goes on vacation, because they go on lots of vacations. But he's been very helpful by changing the dates. But I think we meet once a week. Anything else you want to say?
I didn't really have anything.
Okay, thank you.
Well, so thank you. I think we're all done up here. So.
That was great. Thank you so much. That was really inspiring. And the impact that a mentor can have on a young person's life, or the impact is, John shared the story about how he was mentored as a young person and how that stuck with him. That's really inspiring to listen to. Is Karen next? Yay, there you are. All right.
Kill myself on the
Hi,
cord here.
Karen.
Karen, thank you so much for being willing to speak, even though Chrissy had to bow out at the last minute.
Yeah, so,
I turned the mic.
oh, gotcha. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, let's see, what was it? Friday, Chrissy calls and says, "Oh, you're gonna kill me, bud." And of course, when the story came out, it just, there was a tragic situation with a friend that then this morning is the funeral. And so, of course, but Dorothy said, "No, the show must go on. Karen should still do it." So I'm happy to do that, but it's just not, not quite what it was going to be. But one thing I wanted to say first, with the whole topic of mentoring, Chrissy and I were first asked to talk about that in Thrive by Pat, and there was the series, and then now mentoring. It really has kind of prompted me to think more about that topic, because even then when Pat asked, I'm like, mentoring? I don't know, because often we have a very prescribed idea of what mentoring is, and this whole process has prompted me to expand my idea of what mentoring is. And when I count up, there's so many people over my life, and even now, who are a part of mentoring me and who I'm mentoring. So I just wanted to say that to encourage everyone to also maybe expand perhaps your idea of what mentoring is. I mean, like, for instance, there are mentors who we may never even meet in person, who, through the books that we read and the podcasts we listen to. Gordon MacDonald is one of my literary mentors, who The Resilient Life is it sits beside my Bible. I mean, it's just a very important book to me. And leadership wise, Michael Hyatt is a podcast that I listen to, among other podcasts that really help me in that regard. I have people who I might not meet with weekly, but when we do meet, and I'm going to call out Ruth Haler as a mentor to me, who just, has walked a few steps ahead of me and has a lot of wisdom and love that encourages me. I have another woman that we pray together on a pretty regular basis, and it's a mentoring relationship that way. So when I really stopped and counted, it's like, wow, I've got two girls with me on weekends. They were upstairs with us in the sanctuary, but since January, these two tweens have been spending the weekends with us through Safe Families, and I see myself as a mentor to them. And I think it's important. I just recently have started embracing that idea of, wow, I can be a mentor to them and influence them, not just opening my home, but being intentional. And as a matter of fact, that kind of prompted me to seize some opportunities to talk about spiritual things that I might have missed otherwise. So I just encourage people to think of yourself as a mentor, and also realize that you are being mentored. You're a mentee and a mentor, pretty much, in the interactions that you do, but seize the opportunity to put yourself in positions where you're mentored, whether it's, in person or, through books and things, in a quality way. We don't want to feed ourselves junk. We want to, look to the things that really feed us, and to recognize that there's opportunities that we may have in our interactions that, this person's looking to me. And I thought this sermon, I heard again and again today's sermon about modeling and communicating. And it's like, he's talking about mentoring. So that being said, I know I'm supposed to talk about my mentoring relationship with Chrissy. Let me jump into that and keep it brief. So Chrissy went through Safe Family training years ago, and the way she tells the story is that she heard my husband making some references to his wife, and she thought, oh, I'd really like to meet that person. And so that was like the end of that. But then we were in CBS, and it was 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago. And it was during, my husband had a health crisis at that time, where he had major heart surgery. And so I was asking the group for prayer and explaining a little bit about that. And she leaps out of her chair. She's sitting across from me, and she's like, you're you're his wife, you're Karen Anderson, and she's very expressive. So she she thought that was exciting. Obviously, concerned about him, but the way she says it, she like almost leaped across the table. And so we made that connection of, knowing each other at that point. Well, then the next thing that happens is, he's in this health crisis. He has the surgery. It was very, we did not know whether he was going to make it through the surgery. It was very serious. And afterward, I'm called in to the intensive care ICU. I walk in, first time seeing him after his surgery, which was hours and hours. I don't even remember how many hours. Who's there? Chrissy is standing there. She is the nurse on duty. And I look at her, I'm like, do you know who I am? Not that like I'm anybody, but I just like, are you making the connection? And she's like, yes, I know who you are. She had arranged that was her area that she was working as a nurse at Lutheran General, but she had arranged to get my husband as her patient. And she wanted to take, obviously extra good care of him. And I just was so comforted by that. And I did not stay by his bed all night long because we were in this for the long haul. I went home and got some sleep. It was late at night at that point, and she's calling down the hall, just call anytime, just call me if you want an update or anything. But she was just so caring. And and actually I feel like she's been my husband's nurse since then. She like checks in on him and but it was, I don't know, sometime after that, within the next month or two, that we were putting together a Bible study. And I sat down in church, I think it was at a business meeting, and I mentioned that to Chrissy and said, are you in a Bible study? Do you want to come to our Bible study? And she said yes. So at that point, it was a number of families, and over time, schedules conflicted and things. And so we were down to just Chrissy and then another friend who, that's a whole nother story. But anyway, so now what has happened is that initial Bible study that we had envisioned turned into more of a discipleship group of 3 women. And so the mentoring relationship, we meet weekly. Over COVID, we have done Zoom weekly. And, the time is spent catching up and just encouraging, talking about whatever issues are going on, but then also we're working on some material. And sometimes it is, exact scripture, things that we're reading from scripture. Sometimes it's a topical thing. Right now, we each have adult children. And so we are going through a Christian book on interacting with your adult children. And then, just being able to freely share with one another how that looks in our lives and the ways that we really messed up and the things that are coming up that, we pray together for. It's just a very important time. And we've only recently started getting back together in person. And that's just been really great. So yeah, that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for sharing. And I wish that Chrissy could have been here because to hear the 2 of them together was just amazing. So much energy, so much love and caring too. So our last story is Pat Moy and Jana Proctor, who I hope are in Fellowship Hall. And coming up to the microphone. All right. Hi, Jana.
Do you know how to do this?
Oh, yeah, just turn it up.
And maybe the 2 of you, Jana, can you move? Yeah, a little bit, right. So that way we can see. There you go.
Right in
Thank
there?
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just look in the camera. Okay, I guess in talking about how it all began, maybe I'll let Jana start because she was away at college in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh.
Do you remember? So I'll
Yeah.
let you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jana, if you don't know yet. So the reason why I chose mentoring, I was kind of reflecting last night. I recently, like Pat said, I came back from school and it was just a lot of transition. I was coming back from school, in art school, for some of you guys may know, and it was not what I thought it was gonna be. And so my parents were a little disappointed that I convinced them that I wanted to go to art school. And they're like, yeah, I don't think you want that. And they knew, parents know best. And so I'm like, yep, you're right. I'm not sure what I want to do. So I came back from school, not knowing what I want to do and study. I was also really shaky on my faith too, even though I grew up at this church. I thought I left going to school thinking I was a strong Christian. I'm gonna get plugged in, and I kind of lost my way a little bit. But towards my last year in college, or my second year in art school, I realized like God was pursuing me. I've got to meet two really strong Christian women that were discipling international students. And it was actually my international friend who brought me there, which is weird because when they talked to me, these two mentors that were discipling international students, like they were like, oh, you already are a Christian. And they were just surprised. But I was like, well, I'm not, after talking to them, I'm not like, I wasn't sure, because even though I kind of went along the road or went along on the journey thinking I was a Christian, but I wasn't really as strong as I thought I was. So that's kind of backstory into before I came home. And so when I came home, I did a lot of reevaluating, a lot of reflecting, like, what do I want to do with my life? And so I recommitted myself to my faith. And I was like, I need a lot of help, God, like a lot of help, because I already made a lot of decisions, which I thought I knew for my life. And so at that time I was like, I talked to Pastor Eric, and he was like, and we kind of came down to the conclusion that, like, maybe a mentor would be a good idea. And so I think that kind of, he talked to a few other people. And so I guess Pat can chime in where that happened next.
Yeah, so it was over 8 or 9 years ago, and Ari Atanis, many of you probably remember him, and Becky Flood also was overseeing. They were both overseeing adult ministries here. They asked me to mentor Jana, who at that time, I didn't know her at all. I knew Renee, her mother, from CBS, but I didn't know Jana. So I prayed about it, and I knew what kind of a commitment it would be. So I didn't want to take it lightly, but I prayed about it. And then I felt God saying, yes, you should go ahead and do this. So I decided to mentor her. And eventually we started to meet, and I think fairly early on, maybe through my prompting, Jana began to realize that, yeah, there are some emotional wounds from the past as a result of her abandonment as a young child, growing up in the People's Republic of China, that she really did need to address. And so she began that process. And she also began to understand how important and necessary it was to accept her ethnic identity, to appreciate her ethnic culture, heritage, and history. And God eventually brought her back to the People's Republic of China. She studied Mandarin Chinese in Tianjin for 9 months and lived there. And she was also able to visit the orphanage in Chengdu, where her parents, Steve and Renee Proctor, they adopted her. And after that, it seemed like a lot of things began to fall into place for her. She decided to major in Chinese studies at DePaul University and graduated there. And then she eventually went on to study nursing at Oakton Community College and just recently completed that program. So it just seemed like, just her whole vocation in life, everything began to become clearer for her as she just worked through a lot of things in her past.
So I guess the things that I really benefited from my mentoring relationships were, so I guess I just give you some background. I'm a pretty private person. I don't really like to share about really the hard stuff, the deep stuff. And so this mentoring relationship has really taught me about, I just blanked on the word. I guess just on vulnerability, like just being like open to share about what really is like, not just how are you, I'm okay, I'm not okay. And so yeah, that's one of the biggest aspect of it. And then it's also taught me to like humility too, to ask for help. I don't like to ask for help. I like to pretend everything's okay. But I think even like going through like learning vulnerability and humility, it's taught me to be a really strong person and more confident, because when you know who you are, you can then focus on other things that are more important, and you can care for other people that are in need too. So I'm getting so emotional, and I'm not a very emotional type person. So yeah, those are the few things that I really benefited from the relationship.
The blessings really that I've experienced as a mentor in our relationship is that I just am so blessed and excited to see God at work in her life. It just increases my faith. I was able to also better understand the perspectives and needs of the younger generation of women here at South Park Church. I enjoyed fellowship with another Asian American woman, especially in a church that is predominantly white. And so we've had, opportunities to openly discuss racial justice and reconciliation. And that has been really, I think, really enjoyable for both of us. I also became more aware of and sensitive to the needs of transracial adoptees and the challenges and difficulties that they and their adoptive parents experience. So it was kind of like I knew what she was going through, but I also needed to learn more about what it is that children that are adopted, what do they really experience? What are some of their challenges and difficulties? So I did have to, kind of get to know her and her needs and the issues in her life that she may be facing in order to be able to better mentor her.
I forgot the other question.
Oh, okay.
So how has God used mentoring to encourage you to guide and help you or others? I think I'll add that to the question. So something that I think that's amazing about mentoring is like, you learn like something has been given to you, so then you need to pass it on. And so Moy has, I think she didn't know at the time, but at one point I was helping out with middle schoolers and elementary kids here at South Park Church. And at that time, before then, that wasn't even on my radar to help out with kids. But I think it was through her and my good experience of caring for someone who is a little bit further along. I was willing to do that, or I had the skills because she kind of implemented it to me, and we like learned from each other that I can be a leader. And I think that's something I want to keep passing on to others, whether that be kids or my coworkers or wherever. and encourage people like you have. Like each person has skills and they can share that and they can empower someone else. And yeah, that's it.
And you might wonder, well, what is it that we do together? Our mentoring relationship has kind of changed during different seasons of our lives. So sometimes
Yeah.
she's very busy with school, study, and I've been busy, getting on board with my position here at the church. And so sometimes we've, only met maybe once every 3 weeks or even once a month because we've been busy. But when we are able to, we'll meet like every week or every other week. We've kind of become, in some ways, now that she's grown older, we're kind of more really spiritual friends. I don't feel like, maybe later in her life, she might be going through certain seasons where she might view me more as a mentor, but really we're kind of like spiritual friends. And so we do fun things together too. We go for walks at the Botanic Gardens or the Morton Arboretum. We were at the beach this past week, just skipping stones. And we have a lot in common, for two people who didn't know each other. We love baking cookies. She loves to cook, me not so much, but she's a great cook and baker. And but we like riding our bikes through the Forest Preserve. We've shared many meals together. And we will also go through a book that we both want to read together, and then hold each other accountable to getting through it and discussing it and learning and growing together. So,
I feel like Pat kind of covered it, but I think the most important thing I learned from mentoring, and even kind of what the sermon was about, it's like you do life with somebody, you like even the small fun things can be even like really important moments. Like it allows you to be like, or allows me to relax. I'm like, oh, I can talk about really serious stuff, even when we're, out and about or doing something funny. And so I guess, so I just really appreciate her like putting in the time and just showing up and listening. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, so I just wanted to close with the fact that, mentoring relationships have certainly helped me and Janet to grow in our faith. And I wanted, each of you to prayerfully consider whether you might be someone that could mentor someone else or even be mentored yourself. I'm certainly not young. And coming into this role here at the church, the first thing I said was, I need someone to be my mentor. And I asked God and prayed about that. And God wonderfully provided an older woman that has just come alongside me and helped me and is praying for me, encouraging me, checking in on me, and has made a tremendous difference over these past 2 years. So anyway, just want you to know that we have we call it a Living in Faith Together women's mentoring ministry here that we just launched. So please feel free to contact me if you're interested in either role as a mentor or mentee. Okay, thanks.
Wow, that was truly amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm going to launch the Q&A by asking Pat to talk a little bit. So Pat, if people are interested in mentoring, but they're feeling maybe a little bit overwhelmed or wondering if there's any kind of resource, can you talk to that?
Oh, yes. We did the women's ministry leadership team and we put together just a little packet about mentoring. So if you want a copy of that, I could certainly get it to you. And it's helpful. It just describes what mentoring is, what it isn't, and just really helpful facts, even between generations. What are young people really needing and wanting in a mentor? And so if you're interested in that, I'll make a copy for you. So just contact me, let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for any of the speakers? Okay, yeah, someone else is going to have to, oh, Frank, is that you?
Yeah,
I'm
so,
hearing, yeah, go ahead.
so one thing I was listening to, especially when Karen started talking, she talked about her 3 friends toward the end. I'm thinking it almost sounds more like accountability as opposed to mentoring and mentee relationship. And I think as things progress between Pat and
Jana.
Jana, that they may, they may go into that, some, so that's a kind of a different relationship. So I was wondering if this group that the women are doing, I know in Ironman we've talked about accountability partners. So it's kind of the same kind of a thing. We talk about getting together and having you deal with, accountability as opposed to mentor and mentee kind of. So just a thought, another relationship that could be out there.
So does anyone want to address the connection between being a mentor versus being an accountability partner? That's a great question, Frank.
Yeah.
Frank, can you mute yourself? I'm hearing some background noise.
Sure, that's it.
Any comments? Fellowship Hall?
Yes, it was. Very good.
If someone from Fellowship Hall wants to talk, could you come up to the front with the mic so we can hear you? Great, thank you.
I would just say in regard to Frank's comment, is this on? Yeah, about, accountability partner, mentor. It is, I think, tricky that relationships evolve. And so what is needed at a certain time may change, or maturity may bring the two to a kind of a more of a level playing field where there's more give and take, or it may start out that way and one person may just go through a really rough time, and so then the other one is holding the other up. So it is nice to have those words, those definitions, a mentor or accountability partner or prayer partner or discipleship relationship. But I think sometimes there's a fluidity between them.
Yeah, that's very consistent with what Vicki and Jesse were teaching last week about how mentorship is a fluid relationship that adapts to the circumstances. So any other comments, questions? I just want to say thank you so much to all of our speakers. I am so blessed by what you said and so inspired. And I hope that anyone who's listening to this is also inspired to think about whether God is calling you to be a mentor. If there's somebody in your life that you want to do life together with, to get to know a little better, to grow closer with, then maybe God is calling you to be a mentor or a mentee. So thank you so much. Okay, here's an announcement. I just wanted to remind everyone that there is no journey, there will be nobody here and no speaker.
You can tell us what's going to happen in June?
In June, we'll be hearing about our outreach partners, an overview. We'll be hearing about the Care Fund, and Nick will come back for 2 more sessions on evangelism. So thank you.